One by one, these banks are falling like dominoes. Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about Western Alliance Bank Corporation, ticker symbol WAL. Is this company going to go to zero? If you buy this stock, are you going to have a negative 100% return as depositors withdraw all of their money from the bank and leave you, the investor, holding the bags? Well, let's find out. So Western Alliance Bank Corporation is one of those banks that has been seeing a lot of outflows of capital recently and has been duly punished for that. See, banks, they lend out a lot of the deposits that people put into the bank. Banks do not hold a lot of cash on their balance sheet. Why? Because they don't make any money off of it. And they're actually paying you, the depositor, interest. And if they're paying you interest, they got to make some money somewhere, and they do that by lending money out. Now, when you look at a bank, you have to ask yourself, what is the quality of this portfolio? And you also have to ask yourself, if the bank were forced to liquidate a lot of their holdings, how bad would it be? Because there's a very interesting thing that goes on with bank accounting and with accounting in general, is that certain losses do not show up on the income statement. They show up on the statement of comprehensive income, which we'll see in a second, or they don't show up at all. And it's not really trickery. It's just the rules of accounting. And if you don't understand what you're looking at, you could get into deep trouble. So let's go check out a recent announcement from Western Alliance Bank Corporation. And then let's go look at this company's balance sheet. And then let's compare it to Silicon Valley Bank. And you're going to notice some very key differences. So first and foremost, they put out an announcement, an end of week update. Western Bank Alliance, the primary subsidiary of Western Alliance Bank Corporation, today issued the following statement reaffirming its financial strength. Translation: stop taking money out. Western Alliance remains in a strong position with immediately available liquidity of over $20 billion. The bank experienced elevated net deposit outflows on Monday, March 13th, after people started panicking and taking their money out, okay? Since then, net outflows have fallen sharply, with deposit balance fluctuations returning to normalized levels in recent days, including significant inflows and new account openings. That's very interesting. Now, let's go look at their most recent financial statements, and let's talk a little bit about their balance sheet. Now, we can look at the income statement. I mean, very briefly, they seem to be making a profit on the income statement, so I can't really knock them for that. But there's a couple areas you want to pay attention to. First, we have cash and cash equivalents. This is the cash that the bank actually has, that is very liquid capital. So if somebody wants to take money out of the bank, it's coming from one of these two, either cash due from banks or interest-bearing deposits. Now, we go down and we look at the total deposits. This is what people that use this bank collectively see in their bank accounts. So if you added up everybody's deposits, everybody's bank accounts, they would see $53 billion. If they all wanted to take that money out at once, if everybody fled the bank has to give them $53 billion. And they only have $1 billion of cash on the balance sheet. Do you see the potential problem there if a bunch of people try to take money out of the bank at once? The vast majority of this bank's money is in loans. So let's look a little bit more at the balance sheet. We have investment securities, AFS, which means available for sale. It's kind of a middle ground in accounting between trading securities, where you're trying to make a quick buck, and what's called HTM, or held to maturity securities, where you buy an investment and you hold it until the investment expires. Generally, it's when a bond reaches its maturity date. Available for sale securities can be sold, and they may not be sold. When you have a gain or loss on an available for sale security, according to the laws of accounting, you have to record that gain or loss in what's called comprehensive income, other comprehensive income. So if we go look at the income statement, we can see, okay, they got interest income, they got interest expenses, non-interest income, great. And then we see net income here. So in the last year, they made $1 billion of profit on the accrual basis of accounting. Where is that available for sale security gain or loss? Well, we go down and we see this consolidated statements of comprehensive income. We start with net income, which we already had up here, and then we make additional adjustments for items that don't hit the income statement directly. Unrealized gain or loss, in brackets, that's a loss, on available for sale securities, net of tax effect. So these available for sale securities booked a $674 million loss through the statement of comprehensive income, okay? So yes, there are some quote-unquote hidden losses on the books because they don't show up in net income. You have to understand this or you're going to get absolutely annihilated. So we go back to the balance sheet, right? And we can see that these securities right here, which is roughly 10% of the bank's portfolio, is sitting on some losses that have been used up in the statement of comprehensive income, have been reflected in the statement of comprehensive income. There are other investment securities called HTM, like I said, held to maturity. Now, these are not written down on the books. They are not. Why? Because you're holding them to maturity. But the bank actually fairly discloses the fair value of these securities. So we can see the book value, net of amortization, is $1.2 billion. But the fair value is $1.1 billion. So this is roughly a $175 million loss that has not been reflected in the income statement or the statement of comprehensive income. You don't record this anywhere. This is not recorded anywhere, okay? But is this going to destroy the equity of the bank? Is the equity of the bank going to be gone? Let's say they sold these tomorrow. Would the equity of this bank be 100% destroyed? In my opinion, no. Because, well, factually, no, if they just sold these. Why? Well, the gain or loss on these available for sale securities already shows up on the balance sheet. Where does it show up? Accumulated other comprehensive income or loss, right there. The bank still has equity of $5.3 billion, even after accounting for the loss on these. Now, the unrealized loss that has not been reflected in the income statement is right here, and it's roughly, like I said, I took this minus this, and that's the loss. So roughly $175 million. If you took off $175 million from equity, the equity would still not be gone, okay? So this is a very, very different scenario than Silicon Valley Bank, which we're going to go look at in a second, because Silicon Valley Bank had way more of these AFS, available for sale and held to maturity securities. Now, the vast majority of this bank's assets are loans held for investment, okay? They have commercial loans. They have all sorts of loans. They lend money out to people. That's what banks do, okay? That's the vast majority of this bank's assets. Totally different scenario. If we go look at Silicon Valley Bank, look at the difference here. In Silicon Valley Bank's books, they had a huge amount of money in available for sale securities, and they had a huge amount of money in held to maturity securities, and their losses were way worse. Look at that. They had $91 million in held to maturity securities, and they had a fair value, so if they had to sell them, they would actually have to book that loss, of $76 billion. That's a big freaking loss, okay? You go look at the equity, that would completely wipe out the bank's equity if they had to sell them, basically. Do you see the difference here? There's a big difference between Silicon Valley Bank and Western Alliance Bancorp. But even this bank can fall. Any bank in the world can fall if enough people panic and start ripping money out of the bank. So it might be in your best interests, if you bank with these people, to maybe not panic and take all your money out, okay? This is a profitable bank. Maybe they didn't have enough cash on the books, okay? But they're not sitting on such a terrible unrealized loss with their held to maturity securities that it would annihilate the bank's equity like it would have with Silicon Valley Bank, okay? But the stock has been absolutely annihilated. I mean, look at that. It's down 57% in the last month. And this bank could still go bankrupt. I mean, you never know, because the panic of people can easily overwhelm any rational thought, any rational investment thesis. So if you go ahead and buy a bank like this, you're like, oh man, this bank's going to survive. It ain't going to die. You know, it's totally different from Silicon Valley Bank. If enough people are scared and want to rip their money out, because remember, there's, like 57 million of deposits, 53 billion of deposits. If all these people want their money out, there ain't enough cash, okay? They would have to borrow an ungodly amount of money or take deposits from other large banks just like, what was that bank? First Republic Bank in order to bail them out or keep them alive. So let me know your thoughts. Are you going to invest in this bank? Are you going to buy the dip? Are you going to participate in this gamble? Or are you going to sit out? Me personally, you never know with these kind of situations. I'm going to stay in the sidelines and buy some more VT. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll talk to you later.